You handle it for now. I'm here for
This is gonna be so much fun.
Nice and easy. Time for a casual stroll into the bank, yeah? Casuals.
I didn't really intend for there to be 3 Payday videos back to back, let alone in a short time frame. It just sort of happened that way. Either way, we have something to help pass the limited time still left for waiting for Payday 3 to officially release, assuming it hasn't already done that by the time this comes out. To help commemorate the occasion that's fast approaching, I decided to do my very first proper Payday 2 challenge run, the Smash Crime Spree miniseries notwithstanding. Given that Payday is a series known for robbing banks and, well, getting paid, it remarkably doesn't involve as many bank heists as you might think. Still, one of the most notable ones is the very first hit they ever did, the First World Bank. And any Payday player aware of the secret in this place knows of the Overdrill and all that it entails. So today I ask a very niche but still very important question. Can you beat Payday 2's bank heists before the Overdrill finishes? In order to discern the difficulty in this challenge, we first need to give context on the Overdrill itself and crunch some numbers. Payday the Heist had an ARG within its life cycle, which eventually culminated in the secret of First World Bank, the first heist of the game. By having you and your crew stand in specific spots in the vault lobby and getting the desk light of approval, you'll end up finding some strange wall has opened up next to the counting room above the vault. From there you can slap an uninterruptible drill on the door, and your crew have to defend until it finishes to open up the secret area where they can input the tile pattern and get at the bounty of Mayan gold. This carried over into Payday 2 as well, unsurprisingly. The Overdrill timer itself is curious to say the least. Originally the Overdrill, well, drilled for 7,200 seconds. Or for those of you who don't know how time conversion works, 2 hours. However, a patch somewhere down the line significantly reduced this timer to 2,000 seconds. That ends up with the final Overdrill timer being 33 minutes and 20 seconds. That still sounds like a lot of time on the surface, but when you realize what needs to be done in this challenge, it becomes quite small. Still, we'll give it a go. In terms of the heists that we'll need to do within that time frame, we basically have to do all of the heists in Payday 2 that primarily involves a bank heist. No surprises there. This means that we have 7 heists to do in this challenge. The standard bank heist set to random for sake of fairness, Go Bank, Big Bank, First World Bank, Brooklyn Bank, San Martin Bank, and Election Day Plan C. That last one might have taken you by surprise, but yes, doing Election Day this way is still a bank heist, even if it's just as a cover-up for election tampering. I know some of you are probably thinking, well, what about Firestarter? Well, that's only a bank heist on day 3, and let's be honest, it's little more than the Harvest and Trustee bank heist with a power box and money to burn. As much as Election Day Plan C isn't a conventional bank heist, it's more of a bank heist than Firestarter is, so it counts. So, with that gathered, let's lay down the ground rules for this challenge. I have 33 minutes and 20 seconds in order to complete all 7 of these bank heists back to back. The timer will start when I begin the first bank heist, and stops upon the results screen of the last bank heist. I can pretty much do these heists in any order to help with time and to formulate a strategy. Likewise, any build and any strat, stealth or loud, will be on the table for this one. I can basically approach each one however I please, as long as it gets results. AI crewmates are allowed. Suffice to say, this isn't a run for finagling over details. All that matters is the speed we do things in. The only mod I'll be making use of for this run is Vanilla HUD Plus. All other mods will be strictly off the table. And finally, I'll be doing all of these heists on normal difficulty. A lot of you might roll your eyes at this, but hear me out. I've done a test run of this on Overkill difficulty, and I didn't even get past 2 heists without burning through half of my time. And these heists can take surprisingly long, especially if RNG stings you. Bear in mind, I'm racing against the clock, having to do 7 back-to-back heists in just over half an hour, menuing and all. As much of a challenge doing this on Overkill or higher would be, I want to see if this is actually feasible in general. If you want to try and test your luck on higher difficulties with this challenge, you're more than welcome to. Now that we've got that settled, let's do this. In order to prep myself, I needed to don my mariachi drip once more, set up the weapons I'll use for both stealth and loud, and put together 2 builds designed solely to go fast in both a stealth and loud approach. I won't go into too much detail about how the build is set up, but basically it will have a stealth focus as its primary point and cuts down as much time on drills as possible. Handy since we'll be forced to wait on them at several points during the run. We'll be rocking ECM jammers and a body bag case thanks to Jack of all trades Heists, so if ECM rushing needs to be done, well, I won't be above it this time around. For loud, I'd just don first aid kits and have access to a single joker to give me those stat boosts. And as for the perk deck, I'll be using Yakuza to pair up with Frenzy. I need to go fast, and self-immolation by way of Molotov cocktail too slow. So, while I get the prep for my first heist done, here's my plan of attack for dealing with this challenge. My first heist will be San Martin Bank, seeing as it's pretty complex for such a small place. I'll follow that up with Go Bank and Big Bank, which should hopefully eliminate the last of the harder bank heists in this challenge run. Then I'll do the louder runs in Brooklyn Bank and Election Day, take a breather with the standard bank heist, then finish it off with none other than First World Bank, just to be appropriate for this challenge run. I, of course, am making this sound a lot more straightforward than it actually is, but it helps to be prepared. With my prep in San Martin done, it's time to begin the challenge. I actually have my Switch running a YouTube video with a 1-hour timer set to the 33:20 mark, just so that I have an idea of where I am at this challenge for my first crack at the whip. As is usually the case, man plans Payday RNG laughs as I almost get my run upended immediately by this god camera combo appearing on this side of the first floor. But I recovered pretty well as I got the manager's safe open and headed down to the vault area. I did lose some time trying to find the last wire box, so I wanted to try and speed things up as much as possible from here on out. Once I got the code from the computer of Puss in Boots, I sprinted back to open the vault and slowly but surely made out with 4 pieces of Vlad's treasure. I had a close call towards the end where I needed to ECM rush my way out of there, but all strats are valid in the eyes of the speedrunner. Then it was off to Go Bank. Usually I wouldn't even humour the idea of doing this quietly, but since you only need to deal with a combined handful of guards and cameras on normal difficulty, I could actually feel good about giving this a shot. Once I was able to subdue the bank, I got to work starting the time lock, which only had 3 minutes on the timer. Not too bad, but could be better maybe. All was going well until who should call but the devil herself.
This is Hillary over at GenSec.
Woe is me. This close to triumph.
Hillary's call would soon be the death knell as, although I managed to nail the GenSec takedown, people outside the bank were getting alerted and one was about to successfully call the police with me powerless to stop them, putting an end to run 1. Displeased, it was time to start from San Martin once again. Because my strategy is mostly the same for each run and each heist, I'll just keep things as brief as I can unless something interesting happens. Despite me getting the bad luck of being caught by the roof guard, I was able to catch the manager's fingerprints on tape and went back down to cut the wire boxes. Getting the surprisingly low number code, I was able to do well in getting the merchandise walk to the garbage truck until someone spotted the mess I was leaving behind. Still, no big deal, this is what the ECM rush is for. Except I misplaced it for a body bag case and thus lagged behind just enough to smell the end of run number 2 and open the floodgates of failure. Run 3 was briefly aborted by this guard and camera combination stinging me again. On run 4, I naturally had the safe spawn in the last place I checked, so clearly the game is just mocking me for tapping into my inner speedrunner. To make matters worse, it took far too long to find the tape, and I ended up getting stung by yet another combo of a guard being dealt with in front of a camera. And run 5 sprung a trifecta of this fail condition, with me even retaliating by stapling the offending guard through the wall with my judge. These, combined with my previous failed attempts on overkill difficulty, some to this very scenario, even had me taking to Tumblr to vent my frustration on the density of obstacles in this map. Run 6 started promisingly until I couldn't even find the tape dispenser. That should show that not all heists in this game are created equal in terms of fairness to the player, but that's a video for another day. At least it broke the streak of guard camera related failures, unlike with runs 7 and 8, which ended as you'd expect. Me ending run 9 by breaking alarmed glass out of frustration towards civvies basically proved that I was getting pretty tilted at this point. Run 10, however, was promising. Even though I was slow throughout and I needed my ECMs to guide me home, I was able to get through San Martin Bank in just under 8 minutes. Far from ideal as far as present me goes, but by that point I was willing to take any clear at all. With Go Bank, I made sure to lay waste to the untied population as I fretted far too much trying to keep these lemmings in line in the past. As I expected, Hillary decided to call again, though she thankfully held her vanguard until towards the end of the time lock, allowing me to slip out with a single bag in under 5 minutes. A good way to make up for lost time. Onwards to Big Bank, and attempt number 1 was foiled when I botched the silent saw tech. On attempt number 2, I pulled it together nicely enough, getting the code for the time lock very early on. Even though 2 guards caught me out in the second part, this section is one I could just ECM rush to get through. My pathing was awful, I'll admit, but I got out via the elevators in 7.5 minutes. But for whatever reason, I stopped the run there. I think I might have had an incorrect timer display at that point. Not really sure. Well, either way, my run back for run 11 was greeted by a sub 7 minute clear of San Martin, so I guess there was some wisdom in my decision lying around somewhere. Sadly, I got burned by a 4-minute time lock on Go Bank immediately after, which didn't really help matters. When I had the call from Hillary, I was actually away from my computer to pick up a package at the door, coming back just in time to discover the opening vault. I then paraded out in under 6 minutes with a bag of money in front of the incoming GenSec responders, just to taunt them more than anything else. Big Bank started disastrously, to be honest, but I was able to quickly clean up before it could get worse and managed to get the time lock code within 3 minutes. I got caught at the vault, but more ECM rushing strats allowed a sub 8 minute clear. Now, because I didn't have the idea in my head at this point that AI crewmates would be a valid strat, I opted to go for the election day run alone. Naturally, this being normal difficulty, I was never going to lose to the underpowered enemies, but the additional interaction time added on from not having crew AI meant that this was the first run in which I actually timed out in this challenge. I was just about able to get things done from around the point the clock stopped. So, not ideal, but at least this was the furthest I'd gone in the challenge, so I wasn't deterred. It was here that I needed to shuffle my deck to work things out properly. I decided to create a combined stealth loud build for the purpose of general speedrunning, and used Vanilla HUD Plus's screen skipping to cut down on the amount of time I'd need to wait to get into heists. Thankfully, I was able to abort this not even run when I realized I didn't reactivate crew AI. Oops. Nothing much missed though, being able to beat San Martin once I had my cheerleaders on the sidelines to clear in 6 minutes. I even used the tech of just quitting from the heist clear menu to bring myself back into the heist selection part faster. Being burned by a 4-minute time lock on Go Bank again, I took my frustrations out on the local civilian population and got out in under 6 minutes. Big Bank once again went pear-shaped when I didn't silent saw properly on the first door, and though I was able to pull it together for the run back, I was just too slow in reacting to get my jammer on the wall before the camera saw a guard being alerted. Not ideal. Unlucky for some, run 13 was dealt with in under 7 minutes, just about making it to the escape zone before the alarm sounded. Because Go Bank decided it wasn't going to play nice and give me the longest time lock time possible, almost nobody that wasn't tied down would be safe from my bloodthirst. Here, an actually rare occurrence happened as Hillary decided not to send her attack dogs for a change. I know this event isn't rarer than the chance for the vault to already be opened upon the start of this heist, but it sure feels that way. That lack of pressure let me get out in over 6.5 minutes. Big Bank remarkably started at breakneck speed, finding the code in less than a minute, somehow, and using my ECMs to blitz things from here, a simple 6-minute clear in the end. Then this run came to an end on election day, and in quite a unique way I might add. I went to tag the truck and bail in under 30 seconds, as you should, only to discover that I miraculously tagged the right truck that sends me to the actual second day of the heist. Naturally, this isn't the bank heist, so I'm forced to abort the run here. For one final roll of the dice, I changed to a burglar copycat build with fleet-footed on all 4 slots in hopes to make my movement more consistent instead of faster. More haste, less speed and all that. I also changed out my Frenzy Berserker stuff for acing Portable Saw instead, since it pretty much had the same effect with sharp blades. This seemed to do the trick, being able to find the code in record time at San Martin, and seemingly setting up for a perfect start. Well, aside from this piece of loot having clipped through the stairs, but that's another problem. Then I got caught near the end. Okay, I still have ECMs, placed one down, and... oh. In my haste, I forgot completely about the fact that every window in the bank was alarmed, meaning I basically threw away a promising 5.5-minute run for essentially no reason at all. I had to spend another 90 seconds waiting for the van to reappear, so that was hardly ideal. Considering that Go Bank is fickle at the best of times, 3 minutes is not that big a loss compared to the 5 it could have been. Plus I had the time lock going in under a minute, so it balances out, I think. With my ECM doing the work, the GenSec responders were powerless to stop me as I put another 4.5 minutes on the board and advanced to Big Bank. Things were less than ideal here, though I don't quite know how nobody spotted this guard that I riskily sniped on the ground floor. But somehow I did the ECM rushing portion of this heist without using my ECM jammers at all. By the time I actually needed them, I was practically on my way out, with 7 minutes and 40 seconds done on Big Bank. So, onwards to Brooklyn Bank. Since I could do this in roughly 7 minutes as Link, then this shouldn't be hard now that I'm actually geared for speedrunning. But the game just didn't want to play ball at this point. For whatever reason, it forced me to sit on the beginning screen while it loaded, and the thermal drill was simply not cooperating with the aced Kickstarter. Even when I was able to get into the vault and grab the medallion, the escape zone seemed to refuse to acknowledge my presence until I shimmied out and back in, leading to even more time wasted. In a frenzied state, I went to the bank heist to try and get things back on track, but I made a discovery upon setting the drill down. It was set at a longer time than the time I had remaining. This meant I wouldn't be able to finish Election Day or First World Bank at all. Upon closer inspection of my best times and comparing to some of the times on Payday 2's speedrun categories, I found that with RNG in play, even if I had gotten as lucky as I could, I would still miss the mark by around 4 minutes, and that's without factoring in menuing on top of that too. With that, I had reached my limit and could not bank heist any harder than what I had tried to achieve. It was time to throw in the towel and say with a fair amount of confidence, no, you could not beat Payday 2's bank heists before the Overdrill finishes. I feel like with RNG in your favor, then this would probably be doable, but considering all of the combined variables that would have to go your way, I think it's safe to say that this is one of the ones better suited on paper than in practice. And if it were the old Overdrill timer we'd be judging this on, then yes, this run would be doable with time to spare. It was fun though. Well, sort of. Once I got into the groove, things started to come together, but I don't think I could have cleared this challenge no matter how good I was at this game. Regardless, I won't let that dissuade me from future challenge runs, so throw us a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you on whatever I do next. Take care now.